Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Sherry from Energy Work Studios. I'm going to jump in today and do something a little different. I'm going to try to explain some of the energetic shiftings people are experiencing. It's an exciting time, even though it doesn't feel like it. And that's what I'll be talking about today. The transformation process that we're in during today's segment. There's worry and concern over the rapid changes that seem to be taking commonplace these days. And I know many of my clients have mentioned some days they just don't feel great. They feel like they're going crazy. Some days they feel good, some days they don't. They don't understand why. So today I'm going to try to put something together that gives a bit better perspective so it's a little bit easier to digest. Changes are taking place for all of us. We're all feeling shifting, even if we don't understand why. We are feeling something is definitely taking place. Follow me now through this. It may seem a little heavy, even a bit lengthier than the usual video, but there's a lot to cover. So I've designed it that way so that I can give a lot of information on a very simplified process. So, like anything that's new, it takes time to process. So there's a lot to cover here today. So grab a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, pull up a chair, relax, and take it all in. If you need to watch it more than once, please do so. So as I continue, I'm sure many of you have heard this term before, the awakening. The awakening. Oh yeah, I've heard that. The awakening. What does that mean? It simply means that we're all involved in the shifting frequencies of two-dimensional fields, 3D and 5D. Now I know it sounds a little like sci-fi, and I can assure you this is real. Many of you have heard me say on many occasions, everything is energy and everything has a vibration. So with that phrase, it limits nothing. Words, thoughts, dimensions, emotions, like when I talk about the emotion code, body code, and so much more. The new integrative quantum doctor of the future will need to study the physical model of the anatomy, but will also need to expand his or her knowledge to include subtle energy anatomy based on the science of quantum physics and the most recent research in neuroanatomy. And what does that mean? It's just a branch of anatomy that deals with the nervous system. So today the field of medicine is changing. A new paradigm is emerging and revolutionizing the future of medicine, and we've all seen it. It's definitely shifting. Health practitioners and medical doctors have an opportunity to expand their knowledge and integrate this new research-backed science into their practice. The concept of energy as it relates to the human body in conventional medicine is not given the attention it deserves, and often limited to the discussion of electrical current and completely dismissed as a viable option for healing. Without a point of view such as the one defined by quantum physics, we can't go beyond the seen to reach the unseen realities in the realm of non-locality. Earth and every human on it has been living and existing in the three-dimensional field, which is physicality. It's in an energetic field. But because of the density of it and the low frequency, it's physical in nature. A dimensional field is a spectrum of consciousness. Think of it as a prism. We've all seen what a prism can do. It reflects light through it, and you can see kind of a rainbow coming through. In other words, layers of different color. That's what we're talking about here. Layers of energy. Okay, this is when it gets a little bit heavier, so stay with me. Take it in as much as you can. Come back if you want and watch it again. A layer can be experienced when standing in that dimensional field. The human eye, for example, can only detect a small portion of this spectrum called visible light. A radio detects a different portion of the spectrum. An X-ray machine uses yet another. NASA's scientific instruments use the full range of the electromagnetic spectrum to study the Earth, solar system, and the universe beyond. A spectrum is a condition that is not limited to a specific set of values, but can vary without steps across the continuum. The word was first used scientifically in optics to describe the rainbow of color in visible light after passing through a prism. You know, every dimensional field has a spectrum of consciousness. Follow this now. We're in layers of something, and that something is consciousness. Layers of consciousness. So a three-dimensional field is very different than, let's say, the fifth dimension field, or the sixth or seventh, and so on. As you move into higher dimensional fields, consciousnesses that are not holding the frequencies of that particular dimensional field won't be able to exist at that frequency. So let me break it down. And let me have a little sip of water so I get parched as I'm speaking. Okay. Meaning, if you're still holding a lot of emotion in your 3D fields, such as fear and many others, that's a very low frequency, so low consciousness, and cannot experience any other dimensional field other than 3D. That's it. That's as far as we can expand. This is how physics works. Consciousness creates every experience we have on this planet. So because we're living in a three-dimensional field, most consciousness we experience here is a three-dimensional frequency and not higher. Our bodies dictate the dimensional fields that we experience. So because we're in physicality, our consciousness, which is energy, we're deciding, so to speak, to play in a three-dimensional field. In other words, to play in physical form. With that, our physicality dictates our dimensional field. So the body's frequency will dictate what dimensional field you're in and what dimensional field you're experiencing. Wow! You guys still with me, or did you fall off that chair? Stay with me. I told you it was going to be a little bit heavy, but you'll get this. So, the three-dimensional consciousness is made up of fear, anger, manipulation, joy, peace, love, birth, death, weddings, murder. You kind of get the idea. That's duality. This consciousness can only be experienced in a three-dimensional field and can remain as a very large spectrum of consciousness with duality. See how it works? That's conscious frequency of limits. That's the difference between us and the other dimensional frequencies. Okay, right now, in the quantum field is an infinite number of other dimensional fields right here, right now. Now let me explain that to you by giving you an example that fits. I'm sure many of you have seen this little Russian doll that's stackable. One doll inside of another, and it's kind of like an egg shape. You've probably seen them. They're beautiful. They're very colorful. And this is a simple way to explain three dimension, fourth dimension, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and beyond. They're all right here, right now. Just like in the doll. Layers, individual layers, all connected in one place. It's the same for us. We're all connected in one place to all of the other dimensional fields. You'll be able to access those consciousnesses, and that's what's happening right now on the earth. We're starting to access the fifth dimensional field. That consciousness of being. And the reason for that, our bodies are starting to hold higher frequencies of light. So, the body is simply starting to open us up to the fifth dimensional field. It's always been there, just like all the other layers of dimensional fields. We just haven't been able to access it before now because the body wasn't able to hold those frequencies of light until now. So, what we're going through now is the body starting to hold more light like a prism. When our bodies hold more light, we start to recognize the collective shadows or the low vibration that's been around us, that's controlled the minds of humanity for thousands of years. It's that frequency is what we're talking about. We're starting to wake up out of this due to the frequency in our bodies increasing. This allowing us to pop out of the three-dimensional field and start accessing other dimensional fields. It was never supposed to be scary. We were just never allowed to think outside the box, so we never did. We were always kind of afraid to do that for peer pressure. Through the thousands of years humans have inhabited this earth frequency, we were always judged or crucified for thinking differently, for thinking that we could do more. And a perfect example of that, and not so long ago, were the Salem witch hunts. How sad was that? Those poor souls, most of those men and women were healers and could access the other dimensional fields. Their frequency was high enough, their consciousness was high enough to get in and access information. But because many still could not hold the higher frequencies of light yet collectively, those poor souls were crucified, damned, judged, killed. So you're starting to see this. We then start to see what we've been in. Start to recognize the collective shadow of fear and greed and so many more. We're starting to see the divine design. That there's something much greater to us. It's like firecrackers within the human body igniting and activating the cells of light within. So we can start to see who we really are and the limitless things we can do. So for instance, 2020, look what happened. The large majority of the human collective was holding enough light and frequency in the body that we were able to awaken out of the shadow and recognize things didn't feel quite right. Something's not right here. This was an opportunity to ignite the light within so many that are just starting to awaken, to bring more light so we can collectively access new and higher states of consciousness, states of awareness, states of being in that higher dimensional field that's always been there. Okay, so what will it feel like? You'll start to recognize and feel if something is corrupted or fearful and more. You'll come into a knowing that something just doesn't feel right any longer, like we were blind to it before, something like that. Or you're just not any longer going to be able to access the old version of you prior to your awakening. And not everyone's going to be awakened yet. People are awakening at their own pace, whatever they are at vibrationally. So let me give you a quick example of this. The human body of each individual has its own unique frequency design. Each organ and gland have their own unique vibration for the system. Working with the emotion code, body code modality, the organs and glands in the human body are the frequency generators of specific emotions. And there's many. We work with 60 on a chart with this work. They get trapped in the body. They bring in low vibration emotion that becomes stuck or trapped in the system with certain experiences that we go through in life and we can't process. That's the reason they're stuck. It interferes with the frequency of the rest of the body. It weakens the body. It's the number one cause for weakening the human system. So it could be something as simple as a trauma that you experienced in school with a friend. It could be a job loss, death of a family member, a friend, a pet, a car accident, moving away as a teenager, or having an argument with a best friend and the best friend walks away from the friendship. What I'm showing you here is Each of these experiences have an emotional vibration attached to them. So let's continue. You may lose long-term friends, but you'll gain new friends. You won't be able to be around certain people. It'll feel uncomfortable. Think of it like this. Like attracts like. You'll start to feel more comfortable with those of a higher frequency, holding light. As we keep clearing ourselves energetically, we continue to hold more light, like from fourth dimension, fifth dimension, sixth, seventh, eighth, and beyond. That's the whole point of energetic work. It's helping us. That's what I mean when I say holding the light from other dimensional frequencies. People that are doing energetic work, they're doing their homework, releasing low vibration energy from their systems, such as trauma, fear, emotions. Trauma can be a surgery too. Trauma to the human body can also be medications that we're taking. That's a trauma to the physical body, etc., etc. We're starting to hold more light and anchor it here to the three-dimensional field of the earth and everything associated with it. You may have disagreements with people that you never thought you would. Families could stop talking to you. Your job may not resonate any longer. You just don't want to be there anymore. You don't even know why. You used to like it. Where you live could change. The clothes you wear, the food you eat may not have the same zest it once had. The way you interact and engage with other people, everything changes. The world we know is different. And sometimes it feels like you're going crazy. You're not. People say may say you're a conspiracy theorist. All kinds of things start to happen when you move from 3D frequency to the 5D dimensional field. We're starting to experience the earth splitting into two-dimensional fields. Now hang on to this. In other words, leaving one-dimensional field and moving into a higher dimensional field. And we're doing this simultaneously all together as one collective consciousness. 7 billion human beings, collective consciousnesses here in the three-dimensional field. That's the quantum field. You may have friends and family that are not yet accessing the same dimensional field as and same states of consciousness, conscious awareness that you are. So for example, out for a walk with family members and friends. It's a nice day, you go out for a walk with them, and a friend starts to talk about all kinds of fearful things and going on and on and on with stories and negative narratives. But at the same time, you're looking at a tree. You're feeling the frequency and energy of it. Feeling at peace, being present in the moment and happy, disregarding the conversation. So we may have been born into certain families. That doesn't mean we all have the same frequency. So there's the example. We're all growing at our own pace, holding higher dimensional field frequencies of light differently. What's happening is different consciousnesses. Simultaneously, they may be feeling a lot of fear, anger, resentment, rage, etc., simply because their vibration is too low, so they don't have the understanding. It's like speaking French or Latin to someone that has never taken the language. It simply doesn't register, and it goes over their heads. The difference is they're in a different dimensional field. Two distinct dimensional fields being experienced by two different physical bodies in the exact same location. There's that Russian doll example I mentioned. So welcome to quantum field. We don't go anywhere. We don't separate. We don't leave. We simply move through this transformative evolution on this planet, and that's what we're doing right now. We're transforming like a caterpillar to a butterfly. New systems will be in place in this newer earth. Old systems are collapsing. Allow this old system to dissolve. You're starting to process it. And if you're watching this, you're understanding it before many. And you'll be able to watch this in the most miraculous way unfold. So, you're not going crazy. You're not a conspiracy theorist. You're not losing your mind. None of that. You're simply evolving from one dimensional field to another. So don't beat yourself up over it. This is new and different. None of us has experienced this before. The body is increasing in frequency. The body is holding more light. You're starting to change many things about your life. You don't even know why. You don't have to understand any of this, other than there's nothing wrong with what you're experiencing. You're simply transforming and shifting. So be acutely aware of the fact that every day is changes. One day you may feel so aligned and peaceful, and the next insecure, full of lack, doubt, limitation. That's the transformation process. Higher states of consciousness is when you're aligned, you're present, you have compassion and empathy for humanity. You live in abundance, not in lack or fear, whatever that may be for you for abundance. One person's abundance may not be the same as someone else's. You're not living in the past or the future. That's living in the present moment. Lower states of consciousness, or the old earth that we grew up in, many of us are trying to move out of, but going back and forth, teetering between the old and the new paradigm of being. Here, in the 3D, everything is outside of the self. So let me give you a couple of examples. I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable. I need others in order to be seen or heard. My voice doesn't matter. I'm in lack. I'm in limitation. I'm a victim to everything. I'm not a creator here. See what I mean? That's the outside of us. We've come from a place of disempowerment. But as we continue to evolve, we come back to our divinity, our empowerment. This is how we are changing. This is how we are evolving. This is how it works from a quantum perspective. It's all energy. And from the quantum field, the physical body is what is increasing in frequency, allowing you to pop back and forth, to be aware of your state of awareness, consciousness, state of being, and choose over and over compassion, empathy, and love for the self, as well as the rest of humanity. You know, we were always made to believe it was selfish to take care of the self. It's not. So try to take this in. As long as it's not hurting someone else, of course. So try to take this in. Don't be overwhelmed by this. Watch the video a few times if you need to. Let your system have an opportunity to gather this information slowly, to be able to grasp this concept. I've been talking about this for years. The fifth dimensional field is where we're moving to. It's only made up of love and compassion frequencies. That's it. No ego like the three-dimensional field here. You can do anything. You can create only positive. It's only love and compassion. The frequencies we experience here are low, dense, and heavy. And as I mentioned earlier, the three-dimensional field of thinking, of being, can't exist there. The frequency here is too low. It can't hold it. That's why any energetic work being done by an individual is helping prepare their system to shift the dimensional field to hold more light. And that's the transformation process. So, I hope you found this interesting and educational. Watch it a few times if you need to. There's a lot of information here. If you're looking for more information or if you have questions, you can certainly reach out to me at energy4522@gmail.com or go to my website, energyworkstudio.com. Thanks everybody for watching and staying tuned in. Until next time, love and light frequencies coming your way. Bye for now.